Hello, hello, All Free Crochet community. Selena here, founder, host, lead educator with the American Crochet Association, and I am working together with our friends at All Free Crochet to put together a mystery crochet along. Now, we've been telling you guys about it for a little while now. We've dropped some hints, but there's now enough for us to start this together. So this conversation is just meant to tell you guys where you can find more details, how you can follow along, and just give you some tips to get started. So if you have any questions about this crochet along or anything that I'm going to talk about today during the crochet along, just let me know. As soon as I see your comments here live, I'll go on ahead and answer them. And whether you're watching live or on the replay, if you're watching on the replay, as soon as you leave those comments, I will get right back to you. Okay? So this crochet along is a little different. It is a mystery, but we're giving you guys a lot of different information. So what the finished product looks like is a mystery right now, but in all fairness, it's going to take a little bit of yarn. It is something that you're going to wear. So size is something that is not going to be difficult, but you do have to pay attention to. So for those reasons, we're telling you guys that it is a granny square poncho, but again, it's a mystery about what it looks like. So you guys will either have to follow along with your yarn and your hook, or you can just follow along because it's fun and different and interesting and really entertaining to be part of a crochet along like this, okay? So all of the details for this crochet along can be found when you click on the link in the video description. It's going to take you to the All Free Crochet website. It's going to give you all the details about this crochet along, everything that you need to know about the May 2022 mystery crochet along so far. So if you are watching it or if you are following along every week, you will know that pieces of this, every part of the crochet along is going to be released every week. So the schedule is there, and right now only part 1 is available, and that's what we're going to go over today. I see a few of you guys are watching, so come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from at the very least, and I'll give you some shout outs in just a little bit, okay? All right, so I've already clicked on the link in the video description. I'm looking at the page. I wanted to kind of scroll down a little bit just to read through part 1. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Again, any questions, comments, feedback that you guys have, just go ahead and post those, whether you're here live or on the replay. So part 1, as I've already said, it's going to be granny squares. It's going to be a poncho. I love both things. They're a lot of fun. So today we're going to talk about the materials that you'll need for this, and I wanted to talk about just kind of designing your own size. So in this, I wanted to talk about finding out what yarns to use, including substitutes. So I'm going to tell you what yarn I used, why I chose it, and if you want to substitute, just some things to look for. Then I wanted to just kind of briefly touch on the size calculations today, and I don't want you guys to be intimidated by words like size calculations. Really, it's just to kind of outline what these things mean. I did put this pattern together in a way that makes this very easy to make and very easy to size, and that way you guys can calculate your sizes as you're working up this poncho to make the exact size and the exact style that you want. So hopefully you guys love that. All right, so what I did for this is I did make one sample in one yarn, and the yarn that I chose is Red Heart Unforgettable. I super love this yarn for a lot of reasons. Let's just go down that list because there's a lot of them. First and foremost, I do live in America. I realize that, you know, in this community, there may be people from all over the world, but in America, this yarn seems to be really easy to find just on most shelves in most major yarn retailers. So if you do have a place where you buy yarn, whether it's Joann's or Michael's or even Walmart, this may already be on the shelves for you. If it's not, you can ask them, or you can go online. I realized that when I just did a quick Google search, there were lots of different shopping options for me. And as a matter of fact, whenever I was making this crochet along, I did find this online, and that's where I got it. So it was very easy for me to find this yarn. This is also a really economical yarn. So for the look of it, I mean, just looking at this gorgeous, the texture of the yarn and the look and the colors, I found this to be really economical. So in terms of price, how many skeins you're getting, which is going to depend on the size that you need, you're gonna spend the same or less than you would to buy a poncho in the store using this much yarn. So I think that the price is really good. Next, this particular poncho, it's granny squares. So the entire thing is not granny squares, but there are elements of this that are granny squares. And there are different sections that you are creating in addition to the granny squares to make the poncho. So again, I know you guys haven't seen it yet. I know that that's the mystery. The header image, in the whenever you click on the link in the video description, that header image shows you guys what a few granny squares looks like, just so you can kind of get an idea for what I'm talking about. I chose this yarn because I like the color gradients. I like how often the yarn changes color. I like the colors that are used, and I really like how these colors look together. And that's going to make a huge difference in the project that you make. Now, behind the scenes, I can't show you these yet, but behind the scenes, I did have this pattern tested with, I think, almost 20 people. So I have lots of different projects that use completely different yarns and different yarn colors. So I know that this project works with other yarn types and other yarn colors. It is not exclusive to this one. But when you are choosing yarn colors and yarn types, just know that because you're making individual granny squares, and we're going to be working, maybe you're going to be learning this technique for the first time, a join as you go, to where you're going to create one granny square, and then every granny square you create after that connects to the last one that you made. So there's no seaming or sewing together for this project. With that said, there's a lot of hard work that goes into creating individual granny squares, and you want that work to stand out, and that's why color matters. If you're using a monochrome, a one solid color, if you're doing that, you may completely miss that you've created different granny squares that are joined together. It may not really look that way. You may really enjoy that look. So as long as you like that look, and as long as you think it's something that's awesome, you do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you're new to creating motifs that join together and you really want to highlight all of that hard work that you've done, I do suggest using a yarn that either has a color gradient like this, a fairly long repeat. And when I say a fairly long repeat, what that means is that you're going to have a lot of stitches, a lot of fabric that's going to have one particular color before it moves to the next. And therefore, each color is going to really be highlighted in a particular section. If you use a yarn that has a very short color repeat, it's going to look the same as if you used a solid color yarn. And what I mean by that is, I'm looking for a fabric over here. Oh, I should have made a swatch and I didn't. I should have done that. I'm thinking about that now. If you're using a color with a very short color repeat, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches have the same color before it moves to the next color, it's not enough variation to show that each one of these granny squares are different sections. So they may blend in together so nicely that you're doing all this hard work creating these granny squares, but you can't see any of it. So again, maybe you really like that look, maybe that's something that you're going for, but there are other ways to accomplish that. And I don't want you to feel like, I just made all these granny squares and it doesn't look like I made a bunch of granny squares. So definitely give a color gradient a try. Or if you're going to be using different colors of yarn, if you want to do stripes or something like that, just really consider how you're going to apply color into each granny square to really make each granny square look different. For example, maybe your granny squares are solid, but the last round of the granny square is a contrasting color. That's going to really help highlight, hey, those are individual granny squares. So definitely think about that in terms of color. And If you choose a yarn and you're wondering, hey, did I choose the right yarn? You can always just make a small swatch or wait till next week when we share a granny square pattern. You can make a few granny squares and immediately see if you like the yarn and the color for the fabric that we're making. It's something you can immediately see. So definitely think about that. All right, so I'm still scrolling down. I'm looking at all the information on the site. Okay, so click on the link in the video description. I did use, again, Red Heart Yarn Unforgettable, depending on what size you want to make, because there are different sizes for this, but they're a little, this poncho is an oversized garment. So it's not something that, you know, an inch or two really isn't going to make a heck of a lot of difference. And as a matter of fact, this is absolutely something that you can size as you go. And you can style as you go. Maybe you're a size small, but you want your poncho to go past your hips. Maybe you wear a larger size, but you want something cropped. So no matter what body type you have, you can make a style that fits your particular style. So I don't want you to feel stuck in feeling that you're a particular body type or a particular size, and that you have to make a poncho that's going to fit that particular body size. Now, another interesting feature in this poncho is that it's created from the center outward. So it allows you to customize the length, and you guys can read more about it when you click on the link in the video description. So however many granny squares you create, it's going to create a strip. And that strip is going to be the center portion. So you're going to see all those granny squares right here in the center of your poncho. Now, however many you make is going to be the total length. So if you make granny squares that measure 26 inches in length, you're going to fold that over and it's going to be 13 inches in the front, 13 inches in the back. Maybe you want something a little cropped or maybe a little more petite. Maybe you want something a little longer. If you do want it longer, you just keep adding granny squares. It's really easy to do. Okay? So that's going to be a really easy way for you to size this. And I think another reason that's very important is that if you guys want to do substitute yarn, you don't have to worry about size exactly. So this is something to where swatching is going to make a difference and it is handy, but your garment is going to be sized based on the granny square size you create. So if your granny square is not the exact same size as mine, if mine is, hold on, let me just get exact measurements. No. Okay, one's granny square for me was 6.5 inches across. So it's 6.5 inch square. 6.5 inches on the bottom, 6.5 inches on the side. If yours is 6 inches or 5 inches or, 7 inches, that's totally fine. It doesn't have to exactly match. And the reason I say that is that, again, if you want to substitute, I don't want you to feel that, oh man, I made a granny square and I followed the pattern and it doesn't exactly match. That's totally fine. We can keep on going. And as a matter of fact, as we're going through this crochet along together, I'll give you some more tips and tricks to help you with that. So that way it's never an issue. Whew. All right, guys, I think that is everything that I wanted to tell you about the yarn. You may be wondering about the pattern and what's required in the pattern, especially since you have not seen the finished project yet. So again, Red Heart Yarn Unforgettable, depending on the size that you make, you might, and there are finished dimensions, so you can check that out and kind of get an idea for what size you might want to make. You're going to need anywhere from 3 skeins of this yarn to 5 skeins of this yarn. So again, pretty economical. You can also do easy, simple modifications in terms of substituting yarn. So maybe you already have yarn on hand that you want to use something else. There's easy ways for you to substitute in terms of yardage. If you guys have questions about how to substitute or if a yarn that you choose is going to substitute well, you're welcome to post your questions right here in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. Now, when I worked up my sample, I did use a J-hook. So I used this yarn, I used a J-hook, and that's how I came up with the size of the motif that I share in the pattern. In addition to yarn and a hook, you will benefit from using a measuring tape, yarn needle, and stitch markers. The stitches involved in this particular pattern are chain, single, and double. So very basic stitches are used with this. There aren't any very complicated or specialty stitches used in this. There are a few specialty techniques used. So I do use the adjustable loop in this. If you're not sure how to work that, I have created a video tutorial that you can view. We're also going to be doing join as you go. And that way, again, whenever you create one motif, you want to join the next motif. And we're going to do that with the join as you go technique. So I do have a video tutorial that shows you how to do that working these granny squares. I've got gauge listed. I've got the panel sizes listed, and that way you can get those dimensions. I have the finished measurements listed. That way you guys can read those and get those. This pattern is worked in parts. Again, we're going to be working those granny squares and we're going to join them together. And then we're going to be crocheting onto that panel, onto that strip of granny squares. We're going to be working outward, and that's going to create the length. So we're first going to create how tall we want it, and then we're going to be working outward. And the fantastic thing about that is you can just keep adding or omitting rows until you get exactly what you're looking for. So if you want shorter sleeves, you can just stop adding rows. If you want longer sleeves, you can just keep adding rows. So it is a continuation of the granny square stitch into the panel. So we're seeing more of that stitched used in this garment. But again, it's really easy to size. So that's it for part 1 today. I'm so excited to share this project with you guys. So after you click on the link in the video description to get even more information about this crochet along, you guys can do a few things. You can either get this yarn to follow along, you can dig through your stash, you can look through you can go to your local yarn store to see what yarn you would like to use. I've also posted additional resources if you want to substitute. I am using yarn subs, so you guys can kind of do some configurations, or always ask questions if you have any. If you guys are going to be following along with this, please create and post a project to Ravelry, even if you're only starting with your yarn so far. It's a really fun way for you to build your crochet resume, track your projects, especially what yarn you're using. But it's also going to be a really fun way for everyone participating to see in one place everyone who's following this crochet along, and at the very least, what yarn they're using. As we go through this crochet along, we're going to update those projects there on Ravelry. So again, it's going to be one place for us to see what yarns are people using? How did the colors work up? What does it look like for them? How are they sizing theirs? So again, a great place to do that. You guys can also post your crochet projects here, post pictures of the yarn that you're using, ask questions, all of that. But because this is a massive group, it's a huge group, to keep it all organized, we are using a hashtag. And whenever you post that hashtag here in this group or on social media, it's a really easy way for the internet to categorize and sort everyone who's using that hashtag. So that's what that's there for. It's not just a weird trendy thing. It's actually a pretty cool technology tool. So we are using hashtag Granny Poncho CAL2022. You guys can copy it directly from the post whenever you click on the link in the video description. All right, guys, that's all I have for part 1 today. Hopefully this really opened the doors to this crochet along, what it is and how you guys can participate. Uh-oh. Am I sideways? No. I think I might be sideways. That's a noob mistake. I'm not used to going live on my phone, though. Oh, no, guys. I promise you I can write better patterns than go live on Facebook. That didn't sound right. I'm better at patterns than going live. I'll say that. Okay, let me just give a quick shout out to everybody here. Cheryl, thank you for watching. Vivian, Susan, Cindy, Jerry, Sue, Tinker, so good to see you. Peggy is here. Wendy is here. Virginia, Melissa, Pamela, Teresa, and Sharon. All right, I don't see any questions, so I hope you guys are all just super excited about this crochet along, and I can't wait to see what yarn you're going to use, okay? I'll see you guys again here next week for another live video to chat about part 2 in this crochet along. Peace, love, crochet, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.